Hey, what's up, everybody? So, welcome back to the part number two series. So, as explained, the very first part, we have created the API with the help of Laravel, and now we have to implement with the help of Angular. We have to create the search bar, and let's implement that and integrate the API in Angular. Right, so I have on my right, you see that the server must be running, and that's how we can able to implement that functionality with the help of Angular. And let's create the very fresh copy of the Angular project. So I'm going to type here npm install dash g, and so it should be Angular slash CLI. All right. So this is going to take some time. I want to write back what's in the install. All right, now it's installed. Let's create the project with the name of ngnew, and the name of the application that I want is Angular dash search, right? So make sure that it should be dash search, not the underscore. So I'm going to press enter, and this is going to create the project with the name of Angular dash search. All right, so I'm going to take some break, and I will be right back once it's installed. All right, now it's installed. Let me cd into Angular dash search, and let's open up with the VS Code. All right, so now the application is open, and I'm going to explain. There are a lot of things that needs to be understand, but let me just give you a very basic gist of that. So we have a source folder, and inside the source folder we have the app, and that's the app where we have the components, we have the services. That's what we can create with the help of CLI, and everything that usually we can create is mostly inside the app folder. So normally each component must have the HTML file, the testing file, the TypeScript file. This TS stands for the TypeScript, and the app.module.ts file. And if I go to the right to the root directory file, you see here, not to the root directory, it should be inside the source. We have the index.html file. And you see here the tag, which is the app-root, which is coming from the app.component.html, and everything that you see, it actually coming from this app.component.html file. So let me open up my terminal, and I'm going to open up with the git bash. So if I just try to run this ng serve, so this is going to run on the localhost port number 4200, and everything that you see is basically coming from here. And next we have the, as I explained, we have the CSS file, so it's blank for now, and that's where we can add up our CSS, right? And the app.module.ts file, that's where you see the ng module, which bring up all the declaration array, the where we have all the components. Then next we have the imports, which is the browser module or the forms module. So these are all coming from the imports. And whenever I create a new component, and you see here inside the declaration, just we are gonna create a new one, and this is gonna bring up right inside the declarations array. Next we have our bootstrapping, which is basically the app component, and that's it all. So browser module is for loading the application inside the browser, right? So this will load the application. So this is the very basic gist for the app.module.ts file, and I'm gonna go and real quick and create a new component for it. So right inside the app, I'm gonna create with the help of git bash. So I'm gonna click plus here, and I need here the git bash. So let's create here a component. So ngg for generate, and I'm gonna create here a component. So I just gonna simply give this C. These are all the shortcuts for creating the component, and let's give it the name of search. So once I just simply press enter, and you see here right inside the app folder we have the search folder, which it bring up the all major 4 files, right? And now I hope that my application is running. Yeah, so let me open up with the localhost 4200, and you see here that this application should be, yeah, now it's work. Now this everything that you see here, it's all coming from the app.component.html file, which is actually loaded from the index.html, which is the main, basically it's the entry point file, right? And I'm gonna put up here a CSS here. I'm gonna use here something which is known as Bootswatch and bootswatch.com. So there are a bunch of CSS that you can import. The template, I'm gonna go with the Cyborg, and let's gonna click on here and grab the CSS. So press here Control U, and right after that link right down to the meta name we have the bootstrap, and I'm gonna grab this CSS CDN. So let's go back here, and right after that use your link, and I'm gonna use my CSS, right? That's all I need. So let me do one more thing. If I just try to remove everything from the app.component.html and add here h1, and if I type hello, so if I go back and let me close that off. And if I go back and refresh this, you see here now we are able to, you see here the black screen is just because we import the CSS for the bootstrap, and this is all coming from the h1 which we just import the h1. Basically this is the hello, right? So these are all the thing, and I just forget to show you basically this index.html file must bring this app-root, but basically this all coming from the app.component.ts file, and that's the selector for it. So there you see, so this is the app-root. So this is why the app.component.html is the main root, right? That's why everything that you see here, it should all appear on the browser. Alright, so now I need here, because later part we are going to create here the detail page. So I need to create some routes. So all the routes should be right inside the app.module.ts file. So let me bring up here a few modules which are very important to add. So we need first the router module and the HTTP client module. So the HTTP client module is used when we have to work with the services, or we have to work with the API. So we are going to work with the APIs, as I explained that we have built the API with the help of Laravel, and now we need to integrate with the Angular. So there is a very important module which is known as HTTP client module, which actually comes with the observable, and we don't need to define that, so it returns the observable for us, and later on we're gonna subscribe it. So I'm gonna explain everything from here. So let me import that first. So import router module, and that's automatically with the help of my extension. You see, you can install the Angular extension, all you need. So it's gonna bring up me here, and I also need the routes here, so let me add that too here. So right after the imports, I'm gonna create here a variable with the name of const, and it should be routes, and let me create here a route equal to that, and it should be only include one for now, because I haven't created the detail page in this part, and in the next part we are going to create the detail page as well. So let me define the part. So if I just bring this empty, that means that it's a main route, and let's define the component, that for what component that route should be. So this should be for my search component. All right, so this is not done yet, and I need to import that inside the imports. So right after the browser module, as you see that this is the router module. So modules come inside the imports array, and let me bring that router module. So it should be router module dot for root, and let's bring up here routes. All right, so that's all you need. So once you're done with that, and let's go inside to the app.component.html file. So I'm going to remove this hello, and I'm going to add here router dash outlet. So basically this will help us to route and navigate the pages. So here, in order to see my search.component.html, if I go back here, you see here the search works. So as I explained that this app.module.ts file, I bring up here the search component. So now this should be the root home. So you see all the text that appears here, it should be the root route for my application. Alright, so that's done, and let's create here the very basic HTML part of that. So I'm going to remove this, create here a container. So let's create here a container. Inside container we have a row, and call -md-6, and I'm gonna give some space from the top, so margin top 4, and right inside here let me create here input type of text. So input type of text, and I don't need any name in the ID, so let me remove that one for now. And I need some directive which is known as input. So So basically that will help us to so whatever I type inside the input field, so this directive will help me to type. So this should be the input, and I'm going to create here a method with the name of get products search. So this should be the name, and let me create here a placeholder equal to search products. And I'm also gonna create here the class, which I just forget to bring here. So the class should be form dash control dash lg, right? So this should be the class. All right, now you see here down here it says the error, that the error occurs in the template of the search component, and we haven't defined that method. So we need to define that method. I need to bring up something which is $event. So basically right now we have the input event, and I need that whatever I type here, it should appear on the screen. So if I go back here, you see it's failed to compile, and let me create this method. It should be inside my search.component.ts file. So let's define that method, and I'm gonna create very basic. Whatever I type inside this input field, this is gonna console me to my helping tool. So let's go inside the search.component.ts, and I'm gonna define here the event for the name. So let's give it the name any, of type any. So that means that it could be of type string, it could be of type anything. So that's why it's any means that it could be boolean, it could be a string or whatever it is. So let's create here a variable keyword equal to name dot target dot value. So let's log that and see keyword. So I just want to test this out, and if I go back to my search, so let me go open up my inspect element. So if I type here something, and you see here it's gonna show up on our console. So that's the very first part of it. And if I go back to my app.search.component.html, so that looks good. All right, so right after that, I'm gonna just do a few things here. It should be m-auto. So let me add that too. So it should be fine. And I also need to wrap this inside the form dash group. All right, so now it looks good. Okay, so whatever I type here is gonna show up inside my console. And the very next part I'm gonna do is let's go inside my search.component.ts file. And now I need to actually, what I'm gonna do here is to create here a service. The reason why I'm gonna create here a service, because with the help of the service, we're gonna call our HTTP request, and this is gonna subscribe right over here inside the get product search. So let's create here a service. So if you guys are not sure what service is, so service is a special kind of a class that way we can share the component, way we can share the functionality across different components. So let me create here a service inside the app folder. So let's create here a folder with the name of services, and inside the services I'm going to create here the service with the name of data. So ngg for generate as for service, and inside the services folder let's create here the service with the name of data. So as long as I type something here, so inside the services we have the data.service.ts, which bring us the injectable, and that injectable should provide it inside the root, and that will help us to inject the inside the component to share the functionality across different components. So we have the constructor that we're gonna define our service. So let's gonna define that here. So inside the constructor, I'm going to define here I need to define here something which is known as HTTP client, as I explained that. So whenever we are working with the HTTP, we have to define our HTTP client. which return us the observable, right? So import HTTP client from the Angular slash common slash HTTP, all right? And next we have our environment. So I haven't defined my environment yet. So let's go inside the environment.ts file. And as you see that we have our application running with the Laravel backend API is running with the with the localhost port number 8000. So I'm going to define here the URL for this. So right after the production false, so let's give it here API URL to be http colon double slash, and let me give that one, and the port number 8000 slash API. So this should be the API URL. You can manually add up here, but it's always be a most convenient way that you can add the environment once, and you can just use that. All right, so let's go inside here and define the environment. So I'm going to define here environment. So it should be environment from the source environments. And now inside here, the constructor, I'm going to define here the HTTP. So let's define here private HTTP, and let's give it the name of HTTP client. All right, so that's the part of the constructor. And I'm going to create here a method with the name of get. Let's give it the name of get search product name, and let me add up here, let me pass here the parameter of name, so that could be a string. So this should be coming from whatever I search here the value, so it's gonna return the data. So inside here, let's pass here the response. I'm gonna use here promise, so it will be new promise. So the promise will resolve us, and if the result is coming, so it will resolve the data. So inside the promise, and I'm gonna do here is the resolve. So let me add up here resolve, and actually it's not required, and I don't know why it's coming from, why it's importing here. So const response equal to new. So what actually it says that cannot find any response. So actually it should be the yeah, const, right? And right after that, inside here I'm gonna create here the request. So this dot http, which is coming from the http client, so this dot http dot get, and I'm gonna set up here the environment dot and the API URL, and next this should be the URL that I'm gonna pass. So the URL that actually is, so I still remember that, if you guys could see, because I haven't opened up my application, so you can simply add up that whatever we have are inside our Postman. So let me open up my Postman real quick. So I need to check if that is the valid URL. So I have to see that I haven't closed that. Yeah, it should be something like that. So slash API, this is the API URL, and right after that we have our slash products. So let's copy that slash product slash search underscore product. So this should be the URL, that should be the complete URL, and already the base URL is coming that we just add up here. And next we have search underscore product, that should be the key, and after equal to we have the value that is coming from. So how I'm gonna do here is, so let's inside these backticks, I'm gonna add this URL, so slash product slash search underscore product, and next you see this question mark indicate that could be the key that is actually coming from. So I need to add up here key, which is search underscore product. So let's define that search underscore product, and the value which is coming dynamically, so let's add here equal to, as you see inside the API URL, so that should be the equal to and whatever the name that I pass. So let's add here dollar name, right? And we have to subscribe it, so let's pass here subscribe and the data. Actually, it should be inside the subscribe, and let's have a look and see. So I need to resolve the data. All right, sounds good. Now I need to also check if that data is resolved, and otherwise it could show us the error. So let's pass here the error. So it should be console.log error. All right. And if that everything works fine, we need to and this response, which should be returned right here. So return response. All right, now this should be the method. That's the method that we call from the API. So get search product name. I need to call that inside my. Now we need to pass this service inside the component. That should be app.component. It should be search.component.ts file, and right after that, I just need to remove this one. And first, we have to import the data service here. So import. So import here, and let's add here data service from the data.service.ts, and next, right inside the constructor, we need to pass here the service. So it should be private data service with a lower d, and now here I'm gonna create here with a data service with a capital D. That is import from here. Right, so that should be inside the constructor and inside my get product search. And as you see that in here, we have our service with the HTTP request that we pass inside our data.service.ts, and we need to define that data, the value that is coming right from this search. So how I'm going to do is, so simply use const search equal to this dot data service. Now this is passed across the component with the help of service, and let's define here the method. So it should be the get search product name and the keyword that is passed. So whatever I type, so this keyword passed right inside the name, and we can search that. So now I need to use the response. So dot then, so let's pass here the response, and right after the response we have here. So let's define here this dot data equal to that response which is coming from, right? So this should be of type any, and I'm going to define right after the export class. So data of any, and that's it. And if I just try to console the log this dot data, so we need to define here one more thing, because we have to define HTTP client, and we also need to define inside our app.module.ts, which is the HTTP client module. So let's gonna define that right after the browser module. So import, and let's define here HTTP client module. So I'm going to grab this HTTP client module, and let's add that inside the imports. All right, so that's it. And if I go back, most probably this is going to work. So if I go back and refresh this, and let's add something here. So you see here we have the list of the data of the 50 records. So I need to fetch the results. So let's suppose if I try to, because we search on base of title and the description. So if I just try to add this one, actually just because we have to define, yeah, you see here the 5 results, that's what we generate. So if I try to type something here, the array should be empty, and now no results exist with that. And now let's define the data right after the fields that we can see. So for this we have to bring here something, a directive known as ngFor, which is should be inside the search.component.html file, and right after the div for the form dash control, I'm gonna create here another div. So let's create here the div with the ngFor directory, which is the loop. So ngFor equal to, so let create a variable with the name of let result of data. So this data is coming from that this dot data, the response that is actually inside this data. And let me add up here the card here. So let's create here a class of card dot card dash body, and I also need to give some margin bottom gem b-1. All right, so inside here we have to give their h4 tag, and inside here we have the title. So let's add a result dot title, and right after the h4 tag we have some small, and let's give it the class of text dash primary, and define a result dot description. So these are all the objects that we can access through it. So if I go back here, you see if I just try to type something here, so basically you see that that result in the title is the objects that we are actually getting from. So this is the title. If you want the ID as well, you can also access the result.id, and if that title and the description, and this all loop through it. So let's look and see if that works. So if I just try here EXMOLLI, and you see now it's actually searching. Now if I just try to search on base of the description, so if I just try to grab something from this text, and you see now it's work. And as long as I type something wrong here, so the data disappear, and that's the beauty of it. So you guys learned about how we can search the data with the help of the Angular, and as I explained, this video is still not end yet, and now we need to click on this detail and we are able to get more objects through it, which is the image and the other objects that you can pass. So if I just try to open up, you see we have the image, we have the price, and we have the data as well, which you're gonna show as well if you want. So we can cover in the most probably this is gonna be the last part of it. So I hope you guys love this. So don't forget to like and subscribe. This is the fabulous way of doing things with a neat and clean code. So you can only support by giving me a subscribe and like. So that's it, guys, and I want to see you in the next part.